Welcome to 30 Minutes with F1 2013. Now this is just a shortish video showing you a general look at the game. We will do a little bit of racing, but I'm not going to show a complete race or anything. I'm actually going to work from right to left because it seems more appropriate. So we come in, we've got the Steam store, we've got RaceNet, which is the usual weekly event. As you can see, I've already done a time for this. Driver information, settings. Now I am actually using a 360 controller. I do have a steering wheel, but I just can't be bothered to set it all up for the half hour or hour that I tend to play these games. So difficulty. So you've got all the usual settings that you want. Here I've got braking assist off, ABS off, traction control off, and they cover most desires in what you want to, how you want to set your game up for you. As you can see, I have dynamic racing line set to corners only. Now you might be screaming at me for doing this, but the racing line does not affect the way the car handles, nor its performance. And since it tends to be more generic anyway, I tend to not entirely stick to the racing line anyway, so to me it's not a problem. It does make me laugh when you do see people that have the braking assist, ABS or traction control on and actually have kittens when you talk about dynamic racing line is on. Anyway, gearbox I have automatic because the cars are just too fast for me to do manual gears, I'm afraid. Pit assist, array, again we've got this option back, but I just don't understand what it really does. In the first game, 2010, we actually had to do manual pit stops. Well, it was an option, on or off, but since then it's always been automated, and I just don't understand why this is here and what it does. Parc ferme on, rules and flags, so you can go through and change this, but I find now that the rules and flags, they've got it to such a level where I don't feel impeded by any shortcomings they have. Okay, so you've got the OSD, which is just the layout of your screen. Got miles per hour, I've got set the rev counter, mini map, race position, lap timer, car status, proximity arrows and driver's tags. Graphics, now my rig is not top of the range, it's very average, and I've got it set to 1680 1050 with multi-sampling at 8, VSync is off, shadows, particles, crowd are low, drivers are medium, distant vehicles is high, and I'm getting pretty good frames per second. Now for the PC, I've also got F1 2010. I've mainly bought these for the 360, these series games. I'm finding that this is a smoother graphical experience than F1 2010, which I think is a good thing. Audio, again, it's just the same thing, effects, vehicle, music, replay music, speech, engineer, verbosity, and the talk options. Now, one of the features from this year is the save option, where when you're in a race you can save at any point, which is very good for people that don't have a lot of time to play the game, but want to do maybe 50% or 100% racing. Okay, so we have the proving grounds. Let's have a look in there. You have scenario mode, and again you've just got the basic full scenarios to try and get through. I've done a few of these, but they don't overly interest me, but it's very nice to have these because obviously people do enjoy them, and that's not a bad thing. Time attack and time trial. When you first start the game, you go into the young test drivers days and have to complete that before you can actually start a career or anything. And they said they've changed it. I've not really read up on what they say they've changed, but to me it doesn't look that much different to last year's. Multiplayer, you've got LAN, you've got split screen, and you've got the online options. Career, it's the usual, here you go, the young driver test, which you can actually redo some of the challenges. You've got season challenge, which I never bothered with last year, and career, which is my main interest. The reason I've not gone into season challenges is because I'm not too bothered about it, and I don't think I'd give a very good description. You've got the Grand Prix mode. As you can see, I did start this, but as I said before, I'm not overly interested in the Grand Prix mode or some of the other modes themselves, but it's nice to see this back if it's the same as the one that's been on previous versions, because people have asked for it. Now, F1 Classics, this is the main thing for this year's game. They had to introduce a new thing to try and bring the customers back. Now you've got the Grand Prix mode, time trial, time attack, scenario mode again, but there doesn't seem to be that many scenarios. So let's just do a time trial. And as you can see, that's a 1976 car, even though it's meant to be just the 80s. And you can see as we flip through, we do have several cars. So let's just go to Williams. Now on this sort of standard version, I've got 2 classic tracks. You can go through on the F1 2013 tracks and pick those if you want. But we'll go with Brands Hatch. As you can see, it's just giving us an overview of Brands Hatch. I'll not worry too much about these settings, and we just go to the race. Now, when videos first started coming out about the classics with the lighting mode, it did look pretty overpowering, but to be honest, and maybe you can't see it on this video, I actually quite like it. I'm being a bit erratic because I'm trying to speak over this. The cars do feel very planted on the track. I wouldn't like to say it's Scalextric level, but they do this year. This is not just these 80s cars. They feel very, very easy to control. Now I can't say whether that's more realistic than last year's or the previous versions or not, because I'm not, nor ever have been, or probably ever will be, a Formula 1 driver. But if you've struggled before with this game, you might find this iteration easier to actually get to grips with. And remember, I've got ABS, traction control, etc. all switched off. And okay, you might say, well, but this is the 80s. This just feels a little bit like a reskin of the 2013 cars. I mean, I can't say whether that's true or not. Whoops. Now when you do Grand Prix with these cars, it's a maximum of 10 cars, because there's only 5 teams that they've got permission from to do their cars, and they do vary in performance because they are from different years, they're not all from the same year. Okay, let's go into Grand Prix mode just to show you the situation on certain elements. Okay, so you've got camera mode, participation level. I tend to have the full qualifying, it seems to default low down. 3 laps, 5 laps, 25%, 50 and 100. Well, let's keep that low for this little demonstration. Weather dynamic, and you can see it's got safety car is off. I can't change that. I think that's down to length of race. Is that true? No, it's not. That seems to be a little bit odd. Okay, so let's do the Australian Grand Prix, but as you can see we can change to the two classic tracks that come with the game. Okay, here we are at Albert Park. Now again, we are in a situation this year where we've only got one practice session. I think Codemasters realised they can't cut back further because it would start a riot on their forums. I'm not saying that a riot hasn't already been there for the last year or so. Now, these menus have been updated slightly in their presentation, but overall it is exactly the same as we had last year, the year before and the year before that. First of all, let's go over to the engineer, and you have all the usual options, including this new one, mid-session save, which we've already mentioned. So you've got the quick car setup, which is just going to change everything for you very easily and quickly according to the weather conditions or how you want to run the car. And back here again we have all the information about the practice session, qualifying and the race itself, and the car setup. And as you can see, it is very similar, if not exactly the same, apart from the colouring of last year's and the year before. We've had no real advancement on this whatsoever. Now I understand they want to cater for a lot of people, and you know that's why you've got that simple slider on the for the engineer. And okay, this is fine for someone who wants a little bit more of something a little bit more advanced than that they can tweak a little bit better. But for those people who want a more simulated mode, there isn't that option there. It's still pretty crude. Now that's saying it is effective. It is trying to be an inclusive game rather than being too elitist, which is obviously what they're after, because they want sales, because they're in a business. But I do think they need to start adding things to this game. There's still no telemetry. I mean, Gran Turismo and Forza both have telemetry elements to them, and this after 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, we still don't have telemetry. So let's just go out, drive out.
Let's not push the car too much in the first few laps. The track's green and there'll be a
Now
lot
I'm
of grip.
seeing a little bit of jerkiness, but that's through a loss of frames because I'm running the recording software in the background.
Remember to stay inside the white line. or
Overall,
we'll get a
it does
penalty.
look and feel very nice. It's still got that stupid bloom effect that Codemasters insists on. Again, this car feels very, very stuck to the road. There's no feeling of having to get to grips with the car, knowing its limitations. Well, there is a little bit, but not much. If you make a mistake in these cars, I think it tends to be because you've done something very, very exaggerated, which might be said to be a good thing because it's making you push yourself to the limit. But you know, I want to learn how to balance my abilities with the capabilities of the car. I mean, overall, this does give a very satisfying feeling for an F1 game, especially compared to the previous in the series, but it's a question of, does it give you anything, more or new?
It looks like you've picked up some debris on the tyres. You'll lose some grip until it wears off.
Just don't really know whether it's something that, if I was asked by a casual player, should I buy this, whether I would or not recommend it. Yes, it's the latest in the series, it looks the best. You've got the 80s classics included in the standard version, so if they've never had an F1 game before, then I would say as more of a package, then yes, buy this. But it depends on how much you're going to play the 80s anyway and like it. But you know, it's overall it's a good game. It's what you'd expect if you played any of the others. Now, another little aspect I just want to show you is the 80s cars. Let's do a race and show you the replays. Okay, let's just do a Brands Hatch. Here we are on the grid. Now I have difficulty set to intermediate.
Don't take out your teammate.
It's my fault. there we have it, first place, which is kind of a surprise to me. So let's have a look at the replay. Now the thing about the replay is that I have noticed when I've done recordings before, and then I've watched the replay a little bit better even without the recording software, and it tends to be a little bit jerky sometimes. It might be more pronounced because of this video, but it just doesn't seem to be a smooth replay. And saying that, this actually looks a little bit smoother than I've had before. But overall, the game, as I've said, it's good. If you're an F1 fan, it's probably a no-brainer to buy this. If you're more casual, it's probably going to be the classic cars, as you've seen here. Whether this appeals to you or not over last year's version of the game, whether to buy it or not. And obviously every year they've got to add to it to try and get the appeal there for the casual purchasers, to try and make the money, because let's face it, Bernie is going to take the money from Codemasters whether they make a profit or not, or whether even they make a game or not. I am hoping that with the new consoles due out this year, that next year or maybe even the year afterwards, they will put more into these F1 games, maybe some telemetry, for example, and so we will see that reflected onto the PC games as well. Anyway, that's it for me, this 30-minute look at F1 2013. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.